And we are back on the Chosen Life podcast where we talk everything life, including sports. And we got another sports episode because we got the one and only Wayne Frazier Jr. of Doug Laurie Sports. And I'm your host, Jonathan A. Cohen. And Wayne, today we're going to be talking about Super Bowl predictions as we promised last week. But before we get to the Super Bowl, I have one little thing I need to talk to you about, and I'm going to throw you a curve because you usually get the agenda, but you don't know what I'm going to talk about next. Although you did post this on social media, so I'm going to be asking you, Wayne Frazier, coming up, I believe it's in June, if I'm not mistaken, and it's coming from Cowboy Stadium. Are you going to be watching on Netflix the big boxing match, the greatest match of all time, the exhibition match between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul? Are you all in on that one?
I have absolutely no interest in it whatsoever. Look, I actually admire Jake Paul at least a little bit for taking it somewhat seriously. Like the guy has worked to try to become a credible boxer at least, right? But this is, you know what? No. I just actually rewatched the Hearns Hagler fight a couple nights ago, and there's very little going on in boxing right now that interests me anywhere near as much as watching Hagler Duran or Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard. And even I was watching old David Tua fights the other night, and there's just not very much in boxing right now that interests me a whole lot, and this is certainly not one of them. If I'm going to watch Mike Tyson, I'll watch him in Mike Tyson Mysteries with Norm Macdonald playing the pigeon in the animated show. If you've never seen that show, it is absolutely insane. I believe it was Adult Swim, and it's basically Mike Tyson put into the Scooby Doo role where they solve mysteries, and he has a talking pigeon that helps him that is played by Norm Macdonald. I would not have given that show. In fact, I didn't watch it when it's 10 years old now. I wouldn't have given it a chance in hell of being successful. But man, is it hilarious because they make Tyson play it straight and because he's just absolutely insane in the show, just crazy. So no, I really don't have any interest in it. Um, I would like to start following boxing more for current stuff, but I'm not that interested in the guys that are fighting right now. Deontay Wild, those guys, and Tyson Fury and those guys. I don't see them as great boxers. I just see them as big dudes, you know?
Canelo's a lot of fun to watch in the right matchup,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Mike Tyson Mysteries. I've never heard of that. I've heard of a lot of useless information in my day, but Mike Tyson Mysteries. I'm gonna have to go on YouTube for this one, and I'm pretty fascinated with it because I love everything Mike Tyson ever since. I got a big poster in my man cave here of Mike Tyson Punch Out. And there's Tyson with his hand up, and Super Mario is the referee, and I've loved everything Tyson since. I was in Bahamas when he bit Evander Holyfield's ear, and I was watching that on pay-per-view at the time. Wayne, give me Mike Tyson all day long compared to what I got to watch on TV most of the time. And I don't care they're going to wear headgear. It's on Netflix. Sign me up. I put it in my calendar immediately. I'm gonna be watching this all day long. You gotta understand, I'm going to WrestleMania to watch 2 nights of professional wrestling, plus SmackDown the night before with the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Paul Heyman is going into the WWE Hall of Fame, deservedly so. Probably gonna watch Raw on the Monday. We'll see about that one because I may be burnt out after 3 nights of wrestling. But one night of Mike Tyson against Jake Paul, I gotta watch this thing. The only thing is, and I hate to say it, I think it's fixed, but don't tell anybody.
Well, I was just gonna say, I don't know what's gonna be more scripted, your 2 nights of WrestleMania or the Tyson and Paul fight. The only thing there that this is the only thing that interests me about this is that people are saying the only way that Tyson loses this fight is that they wrote him a big check, right? And he goes down. I don't think you can trust Tyson to follow whatever instructions might have been given to him before the fight, especially if Fury comes out and tries to show him up. then
My
I think you might see Tyson, that you might see the switch go off again, and then all of a sudden it is a straight up just a slaughter, right? Look, Tyson's what, 53 years old?
at least I think it's
I
56. So,
still
yeah.
think I still think he can one punch Fury and Paul and knock him out, right?
1,000%, a
And
thousand percent.
I think that what they're trying to do is, what they will have done is said, look, you've got to make this last a few rounds. We've got the headgear, it's an exhibition or whatever else. But I think at some point during the fight, Paul is going to do something stupid or try to show him up, and maybe it's a setup, maybe it's a work, and then if that happens, Tyson's going to go off script, and that will be where it's worth watching, right?
My feeling is, if I was a betting man on this one, is there's something that's going to be a technicality of some sort that's going to screw up this match, and they're going to have a rematch. That's where I see it going. Maybe it's going to be a draw or somebody gets disqualified. They got to have an angle, because why not just do this again? Because 20 million times two is 40 million bucks for each person. So why the heck not? Let me ask you a question on that vein. Obviously there's gonna be a lot of betting on that action, right? If I want to bet on WrestleMania, I can't right now because it's scripted, right? And so you can't do that, only on some very obscure websites. But do you think there should be betting on professional wrestling?
We used to. I mean, the guys that I used to get together with 30 years ago to watch WrestleMania, we had a sheet, and you picked your winners, and the winner at the end of the night got the pool, right?
Mhm.
You know, I think the fear is that because it's so obviously scripted, that would be really easy for somebody to get the information ahead of time from the writer's room, right? From the booker, and then put out bets and blah, 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 right? I think that's the biggest fear. But to me, why shouldn't you be able to bet on it?
I want to ask you a question, Wayne. What is the difference between betting on WrestleMania or the Academy Awards?
Well,
That somebody
sup,
voted. There's
yeah,
there's 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 a decision on paper in an envelope, right?
yeah. Supposedly, you know, Johnny Carson, we used to do the Karnak bit, would say that
Yes,
his
Johnny.
answers were his answers were sealed in a mayonnaise jar under Funkin' Wagnall's porch since last week, right? Well, that's the way that it's supposed to work with the Academy Award stuff, is that only the people directly involved in the tabulation of the votes actually know what's in the envelope, right? But do I think that there's much of a difference? No, I don't think so. I think you should be able to vote. I think you should be able to bet on whatever the hell you want. If you're, you know, if you're gonna vote on something that there's pretty clearly a possibility that the smart money already knows who won, if you're gonna put money down on that, well, it's up to you. Buyer beware, right?
Imagine that the two combatants in wrestling and the referee go out to the arena and they're about to start, and nobody knows the winner yet, and gets whispered into the referee's ear at some point during the match.
Mm-hmm.
If they have that kind of, that's what they're talking about from a control standpoint that they're going to do in wrestling. Because if you bring all FanDuel everything into wrestling, the way it's come into every other sport, man, there'll be a lot of action on wrestling. So I'm gonna tell you right now, Wayne, we're gonna see a day where there'll be betting on wrestling, and it's gonna be a heck of a lot of fun.
I don't know how successful you can be trying, because if you do that, that means you have to do that at every level of wrestling, right? Now, I'm not saying that you have to do it at like small promotions or whatever, but I am saying that any show that you do that is televised, or even a house show or whatever else, you have to switch that system to nobody knows the outcome until middle of the match or right as they walk in or whatever else. You know, I don't think you can do that and keep the quality of the program or the quality of the wrestling the same as it is. I just don't think it's possible. Are there some guys who can work, extemporaneously like that, who can work off the cuff? Sure, there are. Do you have enough of them to put two of them, four of them, six of them in a ring at the same time? to do 2 or 3 hours worth of material? I don't think you do. And so I just don't think that that's a possibility. And even then, what's to stop one of the wrestlers from having a hand signal during the middle of the match? You know, you've got two guys going, or the referee gets the buzz in his ear, he passes the word along to the two guys wrestling, and then at some point he's got his hand down by his side and he does this or this and signals somebody at home, and now the betting all switches, right?
The second that the bell rings, the match starts, betting is off. They close the window. They got to do
Hmm.
it. So there's gonna be quality control. That's how it used to be. I remember back in baseball games, and now they have it that up into the seventh inning, the odds keep changing. It's
Right.
unbelievable the world of betting where it's gone. And I can tell you in the world of betting that there were a lot of winners and losers here from the Super Bowl because you and I had a very clear Super Bowl prediction, as many people did. It didn't really go our way. And looking back on Super Bowl 58 and the way the storybook ended for Kelsey and Taylor Swift, Wayne, Super Bowl 58 was fixed. I'm sorry. They wanted the Chiefs in there. They wanted the Swifties all part of the Super Bowl. They were all in the arena in the suites, and I'm really thinking Super Bowl 58 was fixed. So tell me, am I crazy or am I right?
I don't think it's a completely dismissible possibility, unfortunately, but I would almost completely dismiss it. Um, I just it's too hard. You know, I am a conspiracy theorist to a certain extent, right? And we won't get into that here. But the biggest thing against conspiracy theories is how many people do you have to have involved in them? Because the greater the number of people you have involved, the less likely it is that somebody can keep their mouth shut for a long period of time. The the fixing of a game like that on a stage that big, it would have to be, you would have to include all of the referee staff. You would have to include this, and I just don't think it's possible to do that without somebody wanting to play the hero and come out and say, "Hey, it's all fixed," and blow it all up. I don't think it's possible. Would whatever referee did that, if it was going on, or whatever official did that, end up like that poor guy from Boeing, dead in his truck in the middle of the hearings about them deliberately passing substandard parts and things like that? Yeah, probably. But I just don't think it's possible that could happen. I think that game was a very strange game. Uh, I honestly, you talk about betting in game, I had both Harrison Butker and Moody as MVP at like 1,200 to 1 and 2,500 to 1. Realistically, Harrison Butker should have won the MVP of that game. He scored more than half their points. He had two 50-yard field goals, and he broke the record for the Super Bowl longest field goal that Moody had just set. I would have won $750 on a dollar on that bet, right?
But his name is not Patrick Mahomes. That is the
Yes.
issue. That
Yes,
is
that
the issue at the end of the
the
day, because remember, it is fixed.
the guy who
Uh,
didn't deserve it for 100%. Yes.
but his name is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So let's start off. Let's looking back at it's like you're in a car accident. You're trying to recreate what the heck happened here and where did we turn wrong. So let's start off with your Ravens. Why your Ravens were supposed to win a Super Bowl according to you, and I have that on tape. So
Hmm.
why did they not even make it to the Super Bowl win? Because they looked unstoppable at one point.
Because no matter how good you are, at some point you're going to play a down game. And the Ravens and Lamar Jackson had a down game at the wrong time, right? That's the whole explanation of it, is that at some point you hope that your down game is in week 6, right? When you're playing the Carolina Panthers, but instead you had a down game against one of the best teams in the league and you got beat. I don't think that's any shame on the Ravens. I don't think it's any fault of, the game planning was bad or anything like that. They just, Lamar Jackson did not have a very good game that day. And part of that is, defensive schemes and being smart about what you're doing. And part of it is you just had a bad day. And, you know, if you went back and said, okay, we're going to play that game 100 times, who do I think wins that game more than half the time? I think it's the Ravens. I still think the Ravens are the better team of the two based on what they had last year. But it's any given Sunday. And if you play poorly, you can play poorly against the Carolina Panthers and get beat, right? If you do that against a really good team, you're probably going to get beat. And it's just, I think that's all it was.
In a short series, anything can happen. In one
Yeah.
game, definitely anything can happen. So obviously, I'm looking good on this bet of ours, quasi bet, where my 49ers ended up making it to the Super Bowl. And it feels like, Wayne, everything they did all season, all playoff long to get to the Super Bowl, they decided, let's throw that all out the window. Let's just play a whole different game now. How did they not have the laces out for that extra point? How do you miss an extra point, Wayne? What the heck happened? That was the play of the game there. That missing that extra point
Yeah.
changes the whole complexity of this game, and it was like one team's playing chess and one's playing checkers. What did the 49ers do here? They could have played a much safer game. They could have won this game, and it's like they took too many risks, and just what the heck happened to them?
I think I think you're right. I think that they stepped away from what they should have done, which was McCaffrey, dump off, dump off, dump off, right? Ball control. Um, I don't know if the missed extra point threw them off so badly, like it just was such a shock to the system, but that can't happen, right? And I don't take that as a credible. I just think that the coaching staff lost their nerve. Like they lost the faith of just give it to McCaffrey until they stop him, and if you have to give it to him 12 times in a row, the chances of them stopping him, maybe you only get a couple of first downs, but you eat up 4, 5, 6 minutes or whatever else. You're keeping Mahomes off the field. You're controlling it. I don't know. It's hard to look at that game and come up with an explanation other than neither team played particularly well, and Kansas City played less badly and outcoached them. Steve Spagnuolo defensively in the second half probably outcoached them.
Man, when you watch Christian McCaffrey out there, he's such a level above everybody else. He is
Mm-hmm.
just so good. I mean, he's two or three positions in one, literally. The guy can do everything on the field. He's unfreaking real.
Well, what
And
you when you say that, and it's absolutely true, right? And you think about the the 49ers being able to acquire him from Carolina for what they gave up, right? Which is crazy. At the time people were kind of like, I don't know, he's getting older. That's a lot of picks to give up, right? There wasn't even a first rounder in there, was there? It was all seconds and thirds, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, but when you look at that, it just makes it more perplexing because McCaffrey is so talented and has such great vision that I I would be perfectly content if you have to mix it up a little bit to keep the defense honest. But I think if you give McCaffrey the ball 3 times, he's going to get you 2 or 3. He's going to get you 2 or 3, and he's going to get you 6 to 8 at a minimum on one of those 3 plays. Now, they may not all be consecutive like that, but I think he gets you to 2nd and 7, then he reps 5 or 6, and he gets you to 3rd and 1 or 2. He's getting you third down, and now you've moved the chains, and you go again. Just run McCaffrey until they prove to you that you cannot, until you cannot run him anymore, right? And the more you guys you put in the box, then you have the chance to throw the ball downfield or do whatever. I agree with you. It was very strange, right?
McCaffrey could also throw the ball. He could go be your third string quarterback. He can also catch the ball. You could use him for whatever you want.
Yeah.
This guy is just unreal. So now, Wayne, are we You know what? I'm kind of sick of the Golden State Warriors, and I'm sick of Steph Curry, and I'm sick of the Chiefs, and I'm sick of Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey. Sorry, guys, but it's too much overload for me. And the whole game. How many times do I have to watch Taylor Swift in the box? Oh my Lord, it's killing me. It's killing me. So, are we ready to say now that the Chiefs are a dynasty?
First off, I don't think you have to worry about Taylor Swift in the box next year. They'll be broken up by then. There'll be some Taylor, some Travis Kelsey diss song coming out by then, right? Um, are they a dynasty? I think they have to win one more in the next couple of years before I'm willing to say that. Now, are they 100% capable of winning another one? Yeah. I mean, what have they lost? They re-signed Chris Jones. They brought in Marquise Brown on a great, very team-friendly contract for like 11 or 12 million. And Marquise Brown is what exactly what they've been missing for the last year or two, which is a field stretcher, right? People say, oh, you got Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice is that underneath that Jalen Waddle kind of guy, right? Underneath, boom, and get in the ball quick and let him go. And
Mahomes
Rashee,
restructured his contract
yeah,
again
yeah,
to help them out. Yeah.
yeah. And so Rice is going to be nothing but is going to do nothing but benefit from Brown being in there because Brown is going to pull the defenses back a little bit, right? It's just going to open the middle of the field up more, which is where Mahomes is magic anyway. Now you've got Rice and Kelsey and Brown going deep. This team's even better, right? As a matter of fact, if you look at the odds, they actually got better last week for the Kansas City Chiefs as the Super Bowl favorite, right? Not as the favorite. They're not the favorite, but very close. I think they've got to win one more. If they win one in the next couple of years again, yeah, you're a dynasty then.
I think in this era, with how it is and free agency and everything else, I'll call them a quasi dynasty at the very least. I think that as much as they're not my favorite team on the planet, I think this is as close as the dynasties you're going to get if there is such a thing anymore. You're not going to get the days of the Packers and everybody else from 1902. So, you know what? I'll give them their credit. They did it and they won it. I feel like the 49ers more beat themselves than the Chiefs beat them.
Yeah,
But that being said, now let's look ahead to Super Bowl 59. Are you ready to predict who's going to be in the Super Bowl this year? Come on.
it's definitely San Francisco on the NFC side. Um, I don't think it's even really close because I think everybody that you would have looked at that said this team is a, the threat to them. Dallas has gone backwards. I mean, like I don't know how you dispute that unless they go out and I don't know how they're going to get
I
somebody.
don't think they were that great to begin with.
No, they weren't that great, but at least they were kind of in that discussion, right?
Mhm.
Um, Philadelphia fell apart at the end of the year last year. Have they improved? I don't know. You had Saquon Barkley. I'm a big Saquon Barkley guy, but are they going to use him? Or is it just are we going to throw the ball deep a bunch of times again? You know, they have not gotten better. The Packers, I like Josh Jacobs. That's another one of my guys. Jordan Love has looked good. They've got a bunch of good receivers. Their defense is shaky. And whether Jacobs ends up being the guy with Dylan there or not, outside of those teams, you know who the next threat is, the next best team to, if you were going to say, if it's not San Francisco in the NFC, who is it?
Love to hear. Who do you got?
Detroit. It's Detroit. Detroit has gotten so much better in the last couple of years. They're
Forgot about
really,
them.
yeah,
They look great this year. Yeah, they
yeah.
were great. Yeah,
Do I
yeah.
think they're ready to beat San Francisco in an NFC championship? It could happen, but not likely. But I think it's San Francisco is here. Detroit is maybe here. And then everybody else now, with the exception of Philadelphia, maybe getting slightly above that. Like, and then once you move out of those 4 or 5 teams, I don't think there's anybody that's even close. Who is your sixth and seventh playoff teams out of the NFC? Like, if you look at the betting odds right now,
Hmm.
I pulled them up here.
Yeah.
So San Francisco is the odds-on favorite, 5-1, right?
Okay.
Detroit is 12-1. They still have Dallas and Philadelphia as equal at 1,600 to 1 or 16-1. Okay, I think Dallas is quite a bit down the list now. The Packers are fifth. But then you have to go all the way down to the Bears and Minnesota are the next teams, and Atlanta, right? So your playoff teams are for sure, not for sure, but as sure as you can be: San Francisco, Detroit, Philadelphia, Green Bay. Those are your four division winners, right?
And we're sending San Francisco to the Super
And
Bowl.
San Francisco goes through to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
But out of the rest of that, these other three teams, like, who are your other playoff teams going to be? Probably Atlanta, now that they got Kirk Cousins, right? Minnesota, Tampa Bay, actually, I give a better chance than I think Tampa Bay will beat Atlanta in that division this year. I still
Agree with
think
that.
I still think they're it, but they're not much better in the betting odds than Arizona.
No.
I mean, I don't really understand that, right? So I think clearly on the NFC side, it is San Francisco, it's Detroit, and then it's everybody else.
All right. So we send San Francisco from the NFC side. Who do you got on the AFC? Because I'm gonna shock you with my pick.
Okay, it's probably Kansas City again. I mean, yeah, it's boring. And I think that it's more muddled in the AFC. I mean, the difference between Kansas City and Baltimore is pretty small. The difference between Kansas City, Baltimore, and Buffalo is pretty small. The team that I think they did the most to improve themselves in the offseason, and the team that I think, if you were going to say, okay, well, you can't pick Kansas City, I think it's Cincinnati. I really like what the Bengals have done in the offseason, and they have a not particularly strong division. I mean, Pittsburgh is there, Cleveland is there, and whatever. I like what Cleveland's done too, right? I think going and getting Jerry Jeudy, I think he's going to be good there. But I still think the road still goes through Kansas City. I think we're looking at a repeat next year.
And who's gonna be your Super Bowl 59 winner?
I think I cannot fathom that the 49ers do not play better in the second time around, and I'll take San Francisco.
So you and I actually agree on the winner of Super Bowl 59. I agree it's going to be San Francisco as well. I agree that they're going to make it there. I'm going to tell you this is the year of Josh Allen. It's going to be the Bills and it's going to be the 49ers. But it's like in baseball where the Phillies have been so close, so close. This is going to be the year. World Series. The Phillies are winning the World Series. 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl. And it's like those teams are right on the cusp. I, as long as they keep most of the team intact, I feel like they take that hunger and they bring it forward. And I agree. And I think Christian McCaffrey is your Super Bowl MVP. And it's going to be a fun Super Bowl this year. But we got a lot of football play in between there. And guess what? We're not even in the preseason yet.
So now I think, you know, neither one of us is making a wild pick there, right?
No.
Who is your surprise team next year? Who do you think jumps up and makes it into maybe the second round? Um, and you're like, wow, they came from out of nowhere.
You know, you reminded me about the Lions, but I don't think they're a surprise pick anymore.
No,
Uh, I think the Steelers are going to have a good year. I think the Steelers are
I
going to
do
be
too.
better than people think they're going to be, and I think it will be Fields as well leading the team. But I think they're going to be a really fun team to watch, and I feel like they're going to bury the Bears at the end of the day. That's going to
Mhm.
be the matchup, and it's going to be fun. So that's my pick.
I
Steelers.
I agree with you, and that was my pick in looking at the board as to, what kind of odds can you get right now. Pittsburgh is in the bottom third. You can get 80 to 1 on Pittsburgh to win, but I bet you could probably get 10 or 15 to 1 to get Pittsburgh into the second round of the playoffs, and I think that's a really solid bet. Um, my other team that I think is going to surprise people and go deeper than maybe people would expect, I think Houston is going to be pretty good this year too. I think they brought back everybody they needed to bring back.
Hmm, hmm.
Their coaching staff, I really, really like. Stroud is just going to get better. Like he was great last year, unbelievable as a rookie. The question is where do they get matched up in the playoffs, right? If they can get a bye into the second round, I think they have a legitimate chance to upset somebody there. I think if they have to play in the first round of the playoffs and then they move on and play somebody like Kansas City or Baltimore or Buffalo, that's going to be a tough ask. But I think they're going to be 11 and 6, 12 and 5 this year, and I think they might get one of the buys.
Stroud, Love, Goff, they're not surprises anymore. I think
Yeah,
everybody's very high on all three. The thing about Love and Stroud, I really like about them when you watch their interviews after the game, these are leaders. They know how to talk, they know how to carry themselves. Very well spoken young men, very well liked in the locker room, and just very successful. That's a recipe for success, in my estimation.
I we didn't talk about this either while we were talking about Baltimore. What do you think about the Henry signing?
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
I don't either. And maybe this fixes what my issue has been. Look, it's hard to blame the Ravens when every time they get a running back, he blows a knee, right? Dobbins, Edwards was out, they've had some really good quality running backs. I don't know if you can hand the ball to Derrick Henry 25 times any longer. But I think you can give it to him 15 and you have Justice Hill as your backup or whatever else. I think it makes them a better team because it forces them to just pick a friggin' guy and go forward with it because Lamar's going to carry the ball a bunch of times too, right? I think that actually might be Cousins going to Atlanta is probably the one that is going to change that team the most. That's going to turn that team pretty dramatically. But I think the one that might make a team make that step forward more than anything else, it might be the Derrick Henry signing in Baltimore. And I'm super happy for Gus Edwards to finally go somewhere else and get a chance to be the bell cow back. He should be. I
I just
really like him.
anytime it's a big signing, I like them to have a transitional year and really get the city and the teammates and the plays and the system, da da. And then I like them in their next year over. So like Atlanta, I want to give them 1 year of grace to kind of get acquainted and everything. But they can't be any worse than where they were at before. I mean, last year was just
No,
it was
just,
they. I mean, they made Justin Fields look like an MVP out there. That's how bad they were.
well, and
So
it's funny. We a couple of weeks ago we talked about quarterbacks and first and like high draft picks and stuff, like Desmond Ritter. Like, I mean, the miss on that was incredible. Like, I mean, my gosh, you're getting supplanted by Taylor Heineke, and then they totally get rid of you for a guy, and they give him $180 million coming off a blown ACL, and he's 36 years old, right? I like Cousins for the team, and I think Atlanta actually, now that they've gotten rid of Arthur Smith, I think their defense is good enough, and my gosh, the tools you have around you there. I don't necessarily like the Darnell Mooney signing all that much. But you've got Bijan Robinson, you've got Algier there, you've got Pitts and all these guys. I really think that they could. I still like Tampa Bay better, but I think you're right. By next year, depending on what they add in the draft, this could be an extremely good team.
it's gonna be a big, big NFL season. We're excited, but in between, we got to finish off the NHL season, the NBA season. MLB has started up, and they're gonna have exclusivity for a little while, which I don't get how they were able to work that out. That there's actually no competitors really against them in the summer months. Good on them. And we're excited for the NFL season coming up. So Wayne Frazier of Doug Laurie Sports, thank you for sharing your wisdom, knowledge, and vivacity for life. So question, people want to reach you over Doug Laurie Sports. How do they do that?
They can find me through all the usual socials, Doug Laurie Sport with no S on Twitter or X
X.
or whatever you want to call it. Yes. Um, It's Doug Laurie Sports on Instagram. We're on Facebook under the store's name, DougLaurieSports.com, and our auctions run at Doug Laurie Auctions. And I did want to show you one piece of
Please.
non-sports memorabilia before I leave.
Okay.
That is a Maple Leaf Gardens Beatles ticket from 1965. And it is the nicest ticket. It's not a complete ticket. It's a stub,
Because it got
but it's
ripped. Yeah.
yeah, but it is the nicest non-complete ticket I've ever seen. And the story on this is that I actually I acquired this from the fellow who went to the concert, and it's a floor seat. And his uncle worked for one of the radio stations that brought the Beatles in. So when they went through to the floor, the usher there was very careful about tearing the tickets properly. So it's torn on the actual perforation at the bottom. When you see most of these tickets, they're ripped here. So you basically don't even get the full two faces. This is as much as you could get, right? There's some minor surface creasing on the back, but it's the nicest one I've ever seen.
What does that run for, Wayne?
This actually, although I am not a grading person, because this is a non-sports piece and stuff, this is actually going to go in and get graded. I think it's worth, if it I sold it raw, it's worth $600 to $1,000. I think it might be the highest graded ticket stub out of that though, and it could make it worth 2 or 3 grand.
Unfreaking real. The world of memorabilia. I love it. Well, stay tuned next week and we'll have another surprise. And you never know what's coming up on the Chosen Life podcast. That's Wayne Frazier, Jonathan A. Cohen, and we'll see you all back real soon.